Ladies and gentlemen, what a world we are living in. 40-year mortgages now are taking over everywhere we look. There is a lot of craziness that's happening in the market. Let's jump in straight to the story today. It doesn't matter that it's from the Toronto Star. Now, we're talking about Greater Toronto homes here. But one thing I want you to know is regardless of where you are, this doesn't matter if you are in a large city with millions of people, or if you're in a smaller city that's under a million, or a really small city, 50,000, it doesn't really matter because what would happen in a big city will affect the small areas. Remember, there is massive banks that have all these loans on their books, commercial and residential. Today, we're going to be talking about residential. If you guys want to hear about the entire commercial video that I just did, the problem is much worse in commercial. We'll link that video up top. For residential properties, just remember, it doesn't matter if you're in the United States or in Canada. This is going to affect you regardless of where you are. But we are picking on Toronto because that's where I am. Now, Toronto Star is an article that says people are still on the sidelines, that the sales of new Greater Toronto area homes and condos continue to slide. This is what you're going to be hearing in every jurisdiction that you're in, that people are not buying. It's kind of like a deer in headlights. They're afraid of what is going to be happening in the near future. People are just uncertain. And because they are uncertain, nobody is purchasing right now. As we continue on, it says, do you see here, there were just 384 sales of new single family homes in the region. Now, we're talking about a city here that has 5 million, 6 million. It's very hard to pinpoint how much because there's undocumented people that live in the city. We're not sure how many, but I'm talking about a massive city, okay? Huge. So if we have such a massive city to only see 300 new properties sell, it's quite surprising. It's something that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. It says it's down 57% from last March. 893 new condo sales, down 73%. Now, you guys know about new construction. This is not unique to Toronto. This is everywhere. About 10 years ago, we changed the way that we do math and the way that we are calculating condos. I think it is a terrible idea for you to be buying something that is a new construction. Let me show you why. I do not think that it is a good idea that you be jumping into that. All right. Let's take a look at my screen here. These are some rules that I want you to buy near. When you're going to be buying something, I want you to buy near transit if possible. Bread and butter properties. What is a bread and butter property? I want you to buy something that ideally is 2 bed, 2 bath, but maybe you can't find that. Maybe you can buy a bigger home and chop it up into little bits. Cost and demand. We want you to buy property that the majority of the cost is going to be not land cost. So you'd like to have something that's below 50% land cost value, and ideally you'd like it to be landlord friendly. But what I really want you to know is about how we purchase properties. Let's take a little calendar down here. 2023, 24, 25, 26. Say that we have all these different years across it. Now, you're going to purchase today, let's say we're in Toronto, where I am, $1,000 a square foot. This is for an existing property today. So this is for existing. Okay. This is very, very important. Existing. But today, when you go buy a property that is new and nobody has ever lived in it and you're buying a contract, you're going to be paying $1,500. So do you notice the difference here is 50%? And why do they say that? So they say in 2023, guys, it's going to be $1,000 a square foot. But we think that over time, it's going to go here, it's going to be worth 1,200. Here it's going to be worth 1350. And by the time you get it in 2026, we think it's going to be worth $1,500. So they're assuming now their kind of snake oil math is that they are thinking by the time you get it, you're going to have to pay 50% more. Okay, so let me tell you this. When you're in any investments, if you're buying a stock, if you are buying any kind of business, you have to assume some risk when you're investing that money. if you're investing that money, you expect to get a return on it. Okay, so if we are looking at Amazon stock, what is the likelihood that Amazon is going to go bankrupt tomorrow? Very, very low. So I'm not assuming a lot of risk, so I might not make a ton of money. But let's just say that there was this guy living in his garage, he's opening a company, you give him 10 grand, he goes, I'll give you 50% of the company. You're putting a lot of risk, and now you expect to make a lot more money. Risk versus reward. So when we look at something like this, here we are taking all this risk for 5 years of who knows what could happen in a massive global problem, but I'm not going to have any potential upswing. If everything goes perfect and the economy is just chugging along all the way up, then I'm going to make my money back. And this comes to a massive problem. So builders have been building from 2018, 2019, 2020. They've been pumping out huge supply. So as all these homes become available, now all of a sudden they think that they're going to be winning. Now, here is the other thing about these properties. The majority of new construction is offering me 4% commission or 5% commission, much higher commissions when we sell properties. Remember, I'm a broker. And so this would be in my best interest, but I refuse to not have my client's best interests at heart. These properties are good for some people. Let me be clear. Who do I see them match perfectly with? The people that are coming from another country. Money is no object. They need to have all their family members, 12 members on the same floor. You can't get that unless you're in new construction. Number two, we also see people may have 12 units in their portfolio. They know there's a big check coming in from their business for some reason. And then they say, I just want to get one more unit in my. Sometimes you can't get the financing exactly through the bank, but you can sign the contract and get one more in your portfolio. Some people are very finicky. They want to be the first and only person to ever live in the unit. That's great for them. But the regular Joe Schmo investor who's not overseas, overseas people like to buy new construction all the time. But the people who live in Canada or the United States, they generally are not buying that product. The majority of the people that I deal with by far are people who actually live in Canada and United States. So that's why I think that new construction for now, I'm not saying forever, but for now is not something that I would be keeping right now. So this is one thing that I think everybody should be paying attention to for sure. Let's continue on then with the rest of this article. Hardly any new constructions are selling. These are all new construction, right? Remember, we're still selling 3,000, 4,000 single family homes every single month. And we're also selling a lot of condos. So this is new construction. Please understand that. All right. So Canada is also facing a massive problem here. Canada brought in 1 million people by international immigration. So a lot of these people that are coming in are new immigrants and refugees from all different parts of the world. The problem is that an average home in Toronto, the average price in Toronto is 1.2 million. When you're fleeing a war zone and you're coming here with nothing but the clothes on your back, you don't have 1.2 million to buy a home. You definitely don't have 250,000 to put down on the home. And so the idea that immigration is going to fix everything, that is a false pretense. It is impossible. If you bring 1 million people here who are bankrupt and have no money, it's not that they're going to magically be able to afford 1.2 million. That's not the answer. So it's not saying that we should not bring people. I'm saying we need to be able to build more homes, and we are not building homes. Do you remember our current government and the governments before? We're all saying we'll build millions of homes, we'll flood the property, and we haven't seen them. So no new homes come on the market because land is so expensive, materials so expensive, labor is so expensive. We've been in a housing crunch since 2011. This is not going to fix the problem. Here is a major problem that we're running into as far as money. So you guys, if you look here, I put up some different numbers. Loan one, $1 million. I'm actually shooting low here. So $1 million for a property last year at 2%, 25-year amortization, and the payment is $4,200. So if you did nothing, zero, right? You still have a variable rate. Now look, the same home, because you still have $1 million mortgage, right? You haven't sold, is now 6% instead of 2%. Now, still 25 years. Look at the payment now, $6,400. That's an extra $2,400 a month. Who has that kind of money? You need to have an entire extra person's salary in order to pay that. And so this pain is coming for a lot of the markets. The crazy chicken part to me is look at down here. Over the course of the term, you would have paid $271,000 in interest, and now you got to pay $930,000 in interest on a $1 million home. You're almost paying $1 million in interest. Oh my goodness. So where do people come up with that? Okay, so this is what people are telling me though now. They say, well, the home prices have come down. Okay. So if home prices have come down to 900,000, they're still paying 6%, same term, and the payment is now 5,798. It is still much higher than it was last year. And this is the argument that we hear every single day. But David, it doesn't matter if the interest rate went from 2% up to 6%, home prices came down. My point is that home prices did not come down enough to compensate it for it to be the same price. Please note, the price here is 900,000. For me to get that price all the way down, we may have to go into some drastic numbers. Look at this. 650,000 would be the same payment as 1 million. So home prices have to come down 35% for you to be able to have the same payment, unless your employer now magically is going to be paying you another $5,000 a month after tax, 2,500. Now you're going to put that against your mortgage. Personally, I don't know anybody who's got an extra $5,000 a month, but maybe you do. All right, so going on past that, you guys, I also wanted to show you this is what's happening with the banks. So how are people dealing with this? Because everyone keeps telling me, David, I cannot afford going from $4,000 to $6,000 per month. I can't afford it. Well, if you just go to canada.ca, and again, it doesn't matter what country you're in, this is always the same stuff, pretty much all of Europe, Australia, New Zealand. On their government websites, they're going to say that the maximum allowable amortization is 25 years. Now, we're going to see this everywhere we go. The question is, where are we today? So today, remaining amortizations. Now, this is CIBC. So this is a major bank. Canada has a cabal of like 5 mega banks. And this is probably the direction that the United States is heading in, where we're seeing less and less and less banks that are going to survive through this economic fallout. But if we look at their book for their mortgages, take a look at that. So last year, we had almost everybody, 45% of people right here, was 20 to 25 years. And this is already just at the peak of the trouble. People were already running into trouble on payments. Look at where we are today. This is just Q1 of this year. Now we have 30% of people that are over 35 years. 30%. This is massive. Now, you would think, is this all by themselves? TD is the same way. Bank of Montreal is the same way. RBC is the same way. These are the same guys that are in a lot of trouble over what has happened in the past. All right. So if you look, though, BMO, CIBC, and 40-year mortgages, if you notice, this article is from 2008. And so the reason why back in the day when we had this economic crunch, when we had that in 2007, 8, you guys all remember what happened to GFC. When that happened, they said 40-year mortgages were a big problem here. We cannot do that. It is a problem. We have to get rid of it. In addition, they said that we are not offering 100% loan to values. Yeah, you have to have some skin in the game. You have to put some money down. That's just what they're expecting, right? And I mean, it makes sense. Shouldn't they be able to put some money down? Of course. Okay, so they're not allowed to do that anymore, right? Well, here's an interesting thing to me. We are in trouble. Notice here, if we go back, remember, the fixed rate is in blue, higher. The variable rate is lower. Do you remember what we were talking about before about stocks, and we're talking about the future of units? If I have to assume risk myself, I have to be able to get a better deal. So if you are assuming more risk by going variable, because you don't know what the future holds, fixed rate is comfort. If you want that comfort, you got to pay for it. Make sense? If you're variable, you got to take on more risk. And so now I should be getting a better deal. Notice this chart that's been happening here. So fixed rate is above variable. Of course, that's the way it always is. You always get a cheaper rate if you go variable. But look at what happened right at the beginning of the year. Now, all of a sudden, variable is higher than the fixed rate. Whoa, 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 David. So everything is backwards now. So now I'm looking at something all of a sudden that's telling me that the fixed rates are cheaper. Why would the bank do that? Why would the bank offer you this security blanket at a cheaper price? Do you think possibly that the banks have no clue what they're doing? It's a big mistake? Or do you think they know something that you don't know? Do you think that they can look at the economy far out and they can see billions of transactions that are happening through their bank on a daily basis and be able to see trouble on the horizon that you can't see? The answer is absolutely yes. And so they're like, I can lock you in at this low rate. They're going to give you a lower rate to fix you and maybe not make right enough money now, but knowing that the problems are coming down the road. And as the problems down the road happen and they have to lower the interest rates down to squat again, that they're going to make a huge premium, a killing on you in the future. If you saw what we were looking at, the mortgages, how much more money were they going to be able to make off of you? Instead of 270,000, they're going to make $932,000 off you. So money runs this game, you guys. So this is why I'm very alarmed when I see that the variable rate is higher. They're trying to discourage you from taking a variable rate. Very interestingly, do you notice that we always talk about the 10-year and the 2-year bond spread? Exact same philosophy. When you are lending your money to the government, do you have more risk if you lend it to them longer? Of course. If I give it to them for a week, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it back. But if I give it to the government for 10 years, 30 years, I have more risk. I don't know what's going to happen in 20 years. So shouldn't I get more money for more risk? Absolutely. So if we look at this chart, do you see right here, the problem started sniffing out when? August of 2019. Please remember, I know that the lockdowns hadn't happened, but right at the end of 2019, guess what happened? The repo market collapsed. So when the reverse repo market collapsed in the United States, this was all the problem. So it was sniffing out trouble before that. Please note that right now, this up here is saying that the 10-year is giving more money than the 2-year. Of course, that makes sense. But when it actually reverses, then we know there's some serious problem. And they're looking at this the exact same way, which is exactly why they are now offering fixed rates at a lower than the variable rates, which is quite shocking. So if we go back, last point, you guys, we saw that CIBC and all these other banks are now allowing these very, very, very long mortgages, 35 years, 40 years, which is unbelievable. Like, I never thought I would ever see this again because I am old enough, I'm dating myself, to remember when they actually banned this and they said, you're not allowed to do that, you guys. I want to show you this last thing. Let's just say that you bought a home in 2020 and you have a 5-year fixed rate, okay? So then what do we have after that? We have 2025. Whether you bought a home in 2020 or you renegotiated, you now have a mortgage between these 5 years, yeah? If you're on a variable, maybe we saw the payments go way up. Maybe you had a $4,000 payment here. And somewhere right now where we are in the middle in 2023, your payment is now $6,000. Remember, we said it's up $2,000. You are going to be really, really upset and you're going to be crying. You cannot afford it. And you tell your bank, I'm screwed. I cannot afford $6,000 a month. And they say, well, what can you do? And they say, well, let's make your payment now $4,500. But what we're going to do, instead of a 25-year mortgage, we're now going to make it a 40-year amortization. And I know what you're thinking already. You said, but David, we're not allowed to have 40-year mortgages. And you are correct. We're not allowed to have 40-year mortgages. You cannot apply for a 40-year mortgage. Here is the key, though. You set your mortgage date from 2020 to 2025. You are still smack dab in the middle of this amortization period. So when you are locked into this 40-year amortization right here, yeah, your payments went down from 6,000 to 4,500, but only until this date. So David, what happens in 2025? Well, you're not going to be able to remortgage at 40 years anymore. Let's take an example in Toronto. Let's just say that you had a $1 million home. The property now has gone down to $800,000 so far. But remember, you still owe $800,000 on this property. So come time for remortgage, what do they normally give you? They give you 80% of current value. So 8 times 8 is 64. So they would give you $640,000 mortgage. But David, I need an $800,000 mortgage. There's your problem. The bank will only lend you right at this point at 2025. When you go to remortgage your property, they're only going to be giving you 80% of the current value. If you're lucky, $640,000 is what they would give you. So now you have to come up with your $160,000 on your home, or else they're going to take the home. That's a big, big problem. They normally give you 80%, right? In a good market. But what we're seeing in commercial right now is, guess what? 70%, 60%. We even see 55% loan to value in commercial real estate. So that means if you have $1 million home, you have to come up with $450,000 to buy a $1 million home. So I want you to go through that thought exercise. If what happened in 2008, 9, 10, 11 happens again, and there's no money from the banks, and the banks are not going to lend, and the prices are going down and interest rates are going up. We're creating a bit of a perfect storm, which is exactly why the majority of people are sitting back and staring and waiting for this tornado to go through. So there will be some shakeups. I just want you to be informed and understand what is happening. But the amazing thing that is going to happen from this is there's going to be phenomenal opportunities for people to buy, for those people who are prepared. If you have been very diligent and always being proactive, not reactive to the things that happen in the market, preparing yourselves for times like these, making sure that you have a rainy day fund and an opportunity fund, emergency fund. If you've done that for yourselves and set yourselves up in a proper way, you're going to have an opportunity of a lifetime that you only see every 10, 15 years now with MMT. Because before that, you would generally see these times every 5 to 7 years. Now, with modern monetary theory, which is crazy town, now we're going to be stretching it out farther and farther. So we stretched it instead of from 5 to 7 years. Now it's been 14 years. And then all of a sudden, the problem is not going to rectify itself in 18 months. It could be 3, 4, 5 years. So this opportunity for you is not going to come around for a lot of people in their lifetimes again. So I encourage you, financial education is the key. I'm super excited about opportunities. I hope you are. I'm already seeing some great deals that are in the market. So I hope that you are prepared. I'm there for you guys. Remember, I always say the next 2 years of your life is going to dictate the next 20 years of your life. So if you like this, please consider subscribing. Please tell your friends about it. Please send it to them. If they have any questions about it, you could always send me messages. I'll talk to you in the comments. Thank you, everybody.